All right, welcome to NFL Outdated Cover 2 series. This episode is with the Tennessee Titans, and I am joined by Steve. You can find him at Tennessteve on Twitter. He is a co-host of Sons of Bud podcast. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Any day I can talk about football is a good day. It's really been an interesting year. Lots of expectations for the Titans. But lots of injuries. I mean, we can kind of get right into it. I mean, I'm sure you've kind of really gone over it in your pod quite a bit. Talk about, I mean, the elephant in the room, or the Henry-sized hole that's missing. Talk about, you know, what Derrick Henry, first of all, has meant to the offense, and then just kind of, what's happened, since.
Well, the absence of Derrick Henry on this team right now leaves a huge void in that roster.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry is the face of the franchise. He is, the Tennessee Titans,
Mhm.
and I don't want to say he is the Tennessee Titans, but he carries a tremendous amount of weight on his shoulders because they rely heavily on him. I believe he still has the most carries in the NFL right now, and he's been out a quarter of the year. Um, and they rely so much on him in the running game
Mhm.
that his absence has definitely taken a lot and has limited what the Titans could do offensively. And of course, you throw in AJ Brown's absence and Julio Jones' absence as well. It's just all up to Ryan Tannehill at that point.
Yeah, and that's, it's been huge. I mean, you tried to, fill it with so many different. I mean, Adrian Peterson got a touchdown, and it's it really has been an interesting kind of, trying to, fill that hole. As far as, some of the replacements, talk about kind of that, and who now is the best next man up.
Well, it seems like that's been a big part of the Tennessee's offense and defense since there's been a lot of injuries. I believe there's over 20 people that were on injured reserve, but we are
Wow.
getting a lot of them this week, I believe.
Hmm.
But it's been a real next man up mentality. Marcus Johnson, who shows some promise, he went out with an injury. Nick Westbrook Akina, he's showed up in some crucial moments for us in the games. Um, Running backs Devontae Foreman and Hilliard have really showed out last game against the Patriots, but unfortunately, turnovers doomed us. We went against the Patriots, and I thought that we were in the game, especially in the first half, and then everything went south in the second half. Just a lot of people stepping up, and from the practice squad, second and third stringers, they really have put in a lot of effort, and I'm really proud for them doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting, with all of the injuries. Well, how do you say that wide receiver's name again? Westbrook. How do you say it?
Nick Westbrook Ikina.
Okay, yeah, I've actually, in my dynasty league, I had to start him 1 week, and I just didn't know how to pronounce it. You have some of these players, and just to be in the league, you have to be one of the top players, but it is tough when you have some of these players. You ask them to fill in a role to really carry a team. So when you look at the makeup of this team and you look at the quarterback, I mean, there's been a lot of questions. Offensively, can Ryan, as I say here, carry the Titans up the Tannehill, into the playoffs and maybe even to the Super Bowl?
Um, I think that Ryan Tannehill, he definitely cares a lot about this team, and I
Hmm.
think that he puts in a tremendous amount of effort. You see how he was in Miami. He didn't have a whole lot of talent with him,
Hmm.
and he definitely struggled heavily on because of that. And now with a lot of the Titans' key offensive players out, but some of them are coming back. I definitely think that. Ryan Tannehill has struggled. I think with all the right pieces and with everybody able to play and contribute, I think he does a tremendous amount, a whole lot better. He, I think, had a total of 7 interceptions all of last season,
Mm-hmm.
and that's whenever he had Derrick Henry the whole season, he had AJ Brown the whole season, and now he has 14. So I definitely think that Ryan Tannehill definitely needs to help um, to help him thrive and succeed. But I feel like that you know a lot of the blame has been put on Ryan Tannehill over the past few games, and I would be lying if I said that I'd never put any blame on him. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like with a lot of those key players that are absent, puts a tremendous amount more pressure on him, and it changes the game plan as well.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it. I mean, he's not going to be necessarily one of those superstar quarterbacks, but I mean, leadership wise, he provides a lot as well, right?
Correct. Yeah, and a lot of his success came off the play action pass when Derrick Henry was
Yeah.
in the backfield, and now with him gone, the play action doesn't work as much. Um, and so, like I said, that just kills the game plan at that point. And then the coaching staff has to become more creative in ways to get the ball down the field.
Well, yeah, I mean, talk about the coaching staff. Like I did hear, that when Derrick Henry went down, they were still going to try to do the running. They weren't going to change their philosophy. Have they had to kind of change that? Number one, and then number two, talk about like Mike Vrabel and his fit. At Tennessee.
Well, Mike Vrabel is a very good coach, I believe, and I think a lot of his success comes from like all the players really respect him and look up to him and want to go out there and play their best football. Titans play very disciplined football. They do make some silly mistakes sometimes that put them in bad positions. But as far as the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator go, they Titans really, they thrive on consistency, and so they hire within and they want to make sure that they stay as consistent as possible and not bringing in new coaches with you know new offensive schemes, new defensive schemes, or whatever. But um, you know that's just my opinion, but I think that there's been some good games where the offensive coordinator has made some good plays, defense coordinator's made some good plays, but there's also some times where I think otherwise. Prime example against the Patriots, we were running on the Patriots. We were moving the ball, running the ball really well. Two running backs with over 100 yards, and that was the first time that the Titans, or at least the Titans, have did that since 2008, and that was on the Thanksgiving game with Chris Johnson and
Yeah.
gosh, I forget the other running back's name, but both of them had over 100 yards, and we were on the 3-yard line, and we turned the ball over, and Ryan Tannehill threw an interception, and first and goal, and we throw 3 straight times, and ended up seeing an interception, and it's like, why didn't you run the ball? But I'm not an NFL coach, so I don't have the answers to all those questions.
Well, I mean, when you kind of look at it, obviously, doing podcasts and stuff, you learn and you look at tendencies. The offensive line, has that been kind of a strength? I mean, you have Derrick Henry, but has the line really been a strength for them as well?
I would say pass protection has been a struggle.
Okay.
I would say that running the ball has been better.
Mm-hmm.
So we lost a big part of our offensive line when Jack Conklin went to the Cleveland Browns, but we still have Taylor Warren on the left side. I know he gets scrutinized a whole lot, and Roger Saffold, Nate Davis, Ben Jones, and then the right tackle spot has really been the downfall. But like I said, it's just been a carousel, I guess you could say, of rotating offensive linemen. because it's rather we can't stay healthy or, there's just games where it's up and down. But I'll definitely say that the pass protection has been the downfall of the offensive line.
It's so interesting, what a great running back can really, or a great player all around can really, do or cover up or mask. And Derrick Henry, you look at him and all the yards and as an offensive player, on the outside, it'd be like, oh, his offensive line must be great. You look at that with Cleveland, and but maybe that's just on how amazing Derrick Henry was in just getting all those extra yards.
Oh yeah, he's a truck, man. He was the league leading rusher in 2 years in a row, and he broke 2,000 rushing yards last season. And like I said, he hasn't played in for a quarter of the season, and he still is number 3 in the league with rushing yards, and I believe number 1 or number 2 in carries. And so I just can't imagine, if he never got hurt, what the numbers would be, and what a record would be at this point. But like I said, to say that in hindsight.
Yeah, I mean, you're still kind of, you look at the season. I mean, you're still in first place, still kind of 8-4. I mean, it's really kind of the AFC South. I mean, it's still kind of right out in front of the Titans, obviously, right?
Yeah, right now the Colts are a game behind us, but they're on a bye week coming this week. So
Yeah,
Titans play the Jags at home. So that is a very, very crucial game. But it always seems that these AFC South games has always been a nail biter with the Titans. It doesn't matter if it's against the Texans or the Colts or the Jags, and it doesn't matter if they're 0-8 or 8-0, and it just is always, it seems like it's down to the wire, especially against the Texans and the Colts. And this past game against the Texans was a really disappointing loss. I wasn't expecting to lose that game.
mm-hmm.
They were on a 6-game winning streak, and I know that you can't win them all. And
Right.
so really, I didn't think that we were going to lose against the Texans. I kind of had a feeling we were going to lose against the Patriots, but it's just like the fashion that they lost against the Texans and the fashion that they lost against the Patriots, because it was turnovers that doomed them. And I think it was 2 fumbles against the Patriots and an interception, and then the Texans, I believe there was 4 interceptions. So it's just, these past 2 weeks have been very, very tough. And Titans coming off a bye, and with a lot of players coming off an injured reserve and ready to contribute, I think that they're really eager and to get out there and start winning some football games. And I think that Titans getting healthy at the right time the last few weeks of the regular season, I think that that's going to be really beneficial to them. But fingers crossed that they can get it turned around and keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it. Jacksonville's a little bit, more competitive lately. Pittsburgh, I mean, they're just getting blown out by the Vikings tonight. So you don't know what you're going to get, and it's at Pittsburgh. San Francisco might be tough, but I mean, you have some winnable games there. I mean, and you talked about kind of getting healthy. Now AJ Brown's still out, but is Julio going to be back this week?
Yeah. He practiced on yesterday and today. So, unless he pulls a hammy again or something, then I would say that he'd be ready to go.
Are you expecting a big workload from him, or I mean, are people kind of worried that he might re-injure it, with his age and everything?
There's just no telling. There's no telling.
Yeah.
Vrabel, one of the things that stuck out most to me is with football, there's 100% chance that you're going to get injured at some point.
Yeah.
It just depends on how severe it is. If it's very minor, it can just, a little rehab and stretching can do a world's difference. But sometimes, you're going to be out for the rest of the year with a ACL tear, or, for a couple weeks for the concussion. You just never know.
Yeah.
But I think that with Julio being back, that might help take off some pressure.
Mhm.
Maybe help open up the running game a little bit. Like I said, that last game against the Patriots, it was we kind of had that 1-2 combo with the Hilliard and Foreman. So
Mhm.
hopefully that success can continue, and hopefully they can come out with a victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of look at, if Julio's back, that's, that would definitely be helpful. Who has filled, that number one or maybe even now number two wide receiver spot? Because like, was it Marcus Johnson had one good game? Obviously, then he got hurt, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
Chester Rogers. I mean, where do all
Mm-hmm.
those fit? With and without Julio.
Um, I think that they're definitely not on the same level with Julio Jones, but I
Yeah.
feel like them going out there and absolutely giving it their all and ready to contribute. I think it goes a long way. Um, Nick Westbrook, and I think like you said, Chester Rogers, and I think Des Fitzpatrick has been stepping up there
Mm.
the past couple games too. Um, so I think that with them being consistent and with them um, just giving it their all, it's definitely not the same without AJ and without Julio. But like I said, maybe with Julio being out there, that would take off some of the pressure off these other receivers that they can actually go out there and make a bigger contribution to the team.
Yeah. It does, Tannehill, does he kind of, like kind of some of those like slot receivers or even like the tight end, kind of going to the tight end? Does he like those more? Or I mean, in the absence of Julio, or even when Julio gets back, or what does he kind of, tend to go? Does he really like Swaim as well?
And I think that he likes everybody just as much. I
Yeah.
know that he really likes AJ Brown, but with
Yeah.
Julio missing a lot of time, it's hard to build that chemistry. And
Hmm.
then with just like a different lineup of receivers each week, it's kind of hard to build that chemistry. So
Yeah.
I think that's like also where a lot of struggles come from Tannehill. And like I said, also the pass protection has been not really good either. So he doesn't have a whole lot of time to,
Hmm.
sit back in the pocket and let plays develop. So it's just a whole lot of issues. And with the injuries this year, it's been the Achilles heel, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And it's really killed a lot of high expectations that this team had going into the season.
Yeah, yeah, that's hard, and so like Swaim, is he kind of the answer at tight end, or that has become such an important part of a lot of NFL offenses. I mean, are they going to need to maybe draft one in the upcoming draft, or
I guess you can always say, well, it just really depends on what they do in free
yeah,
agency.
yeah,
But like Swaim is, I like Swaim. I like Berkshire, but he definitely has not. The expectations for him has not shown this season. But I really like Michael Pruitt. I
oh,
like him a lot. He's a really good contributing and to the run game and blocking. But
mhm,
also he's a scrappy guy, and he'll give it his all, and try to push for those extra yarders. He has that mentality of that hard nosed football where he's going to just run the ball down your throat, and um, so I definitely think that tight end probably is something that we need to look for.
mhm.
Um, but who knows when this free agency starts?
Yeah, yeah. Talking about, a lot of the injuries and stuff, we talked, earlier a little bit about the defensive players. Who are the key defensive players? And, you know, I'm just like looking, on ESPN, like, holy cow. I mean, so I've never seen so many, starters defensively, with a question mark here.
Well, I'll definitely say the true like the main leader of the defense is Kevin Byard.
Oh,
Um,
yes, that's
that we
right.
got we got Kevin Byard in the back and the safety position, and we got Big Jeff up front. And Denico Autry, he's been a phenomenal free agent addition. He might be one of the best free agents we ever had. And then you can't forget about Harold Landry on the edge, and of course Bud Dupree too. And ever since Bud Dupree's been out with an injury, the pass rush hasn't been quite there. I mean, they still are getting pressures, but whenever it was Bud Dupree and Harold Landry on the edge, and then Big Jeff and Denico Autry up front, it made a huge difference. And the defense was really what was winning those games against, especially the Rams. So there's a whole lot of key players. Elijah Molden was a draft addition that we had, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to do over the next few years. And Christian Fulton as well. He's missed some time with injury. And of course, you got Jackrabbit too. But I feel like that corner is probably going to be something else that we need to go for in the draft or in free agency. I can't really tell of like who we're going to add and who we're not going to add until free agent starts. But who knows? Like our general manager John Robinson usually likes to roll the dice on some players. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Is Caleb Farley still kind of in the plans, or is he kind of fallen out of favor? I mean, obviously he's on IR now, but he was a big name. Is he kind of fallen out now?
Well, he missed some time at the beginning of the year due to injury, and then he tore his ACL, unfortunately. So I definitely think that he is definitely still in the plan. He's just like he's the size of a wide receiver, and he's so fast and he's so dynamic. And so I'm really excited to see what he can do too. But unfortunately, the injury bug has just been biting him, and so he hasn't really been able to contribute that much.
Yeah. Going back, so Bud Dupree, is that what the podcast Sons of Bud?
No, Sons of Bud is for Bud Adams.
Yes.
He was the first owner of the franchise, and my other co-host Chris, his dad's name is Bud,
cool.
and so we just kind of like we went to the Sons of Bud, and me and Chris and his dad Bud and one of my buddies Brandon, we kind of have this little group. We just say, oh, we're the Fantastic Four, and so that's kind of where the Sons of Bud came. It's like because we're the Sons of Bud of like Bud Adams. It's paying tribute to Bud Adams.
And now, so have you been a fan? Even before they were in Tennessee, or?
No, I started watching them like off and on whenever they were the Titans. Whenever I was a kid, I had like crazy ADHD, and like I really couldn't sit and focus and like watch the games, and so I remember whenever they came to Tennessee and they were the Tennessee Oilers, my dad watching them, and then I remember whenever they were the Tennessee Titans, like them playing 1 o'clock each Sunday, and I would keep an eye on them, and then of course they went to the Super Bowl that year and played the Rams and were 1 yard short.
Yeah.
And
Classic.
I kind of watched them off and on after that, but it wasn't until I got older, and then whenever the Titans drafted Vince Young, where I started becoming more invested in watching them, and so I would watch them off and on then too. But I moved to North Carolina in 2006 and have been living here ever since. And so I didn't get a whole lot of Titans games, maybe some primetime games here and there. And then whenever my parents would take me to Buffalo Wild Wings to watch a Titans game, then that's the only time I'd watch it. And so it wasn't really until the Titans drafted Marcus Mariota, and I moved out on my own, and I was able to, buy Sunday ticket and spend my money, whatever I wanted to spend it on. And so it wasn't until where I really, really, really started getting invested in watching like the Titans game each and every Titans game, unless I was working. And then, of course, I would record it on the DVR and watch it
Mhm.
whenever I got off. So I would really say that I've become more of an invested fan since like 2015, 2014, whenever we drafted Mariota. I think it was 2015.
Well, yeah, you think about just the history of even, I mean, the short history of the Tennessee Titans and the quarterback. I mean, you brought up Vince Young. I mean, um, it, since Steve McNair, I mean, that was just an amazing pick, and taking them to the Super Bowl, and but you had Vince Young. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you had well, Mariota, but before that, you know,
Jake Locker.
Jake Locker, it's been an interesting path, to the quarterback, to Tannehill, and really to just kind of, you know, relevancy. And you have a coach that's really kind of brought that kind of winning mentality back. And so you had a lot of hopes coming into the year. And so where do you kind of realistically think this team can kind of finish out? I mean, do you think they will get to the playoffs? And obviously, they're in position now. If they get to the playoffs, do you think that they can win a game or two?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the Titans will for sure go to the playoffs, and as long as we continue getting healthy and stay healthy, then I think we can make a strong push. And nobody knew that 2 years ago we were going to go all the way to the AFC
Hmm.
championship. That was the year where Mariota got benched halfway through a game, and that's
Yeah.
whenever Tannehill took the reins. And we ended up being 2-4 after that game, and then ended up going 9-7, and then going all the way to the AFC Championship. And that really was because of Derrick Henry and the
Hmm.
way that he just broke out. And so ever since then, it's been King Henry. King Henry.
Well, yeah, and he's been amazing. The Titans have had a great running backs as well. I mean, you go back to, was that Chris Henry, right?
Chris Johnson.
Chris Johnson. Oh, I always get it. Chris Johnson. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
2,000-yard rusher, and even back to that, I see in the back you've got Eddie George. And he's, I believe, in the semifinals to make the Hall now, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think he's. He hasn't been inducted to the Hall of Fame yet, but he definitely is on the doorstep of being inducted.
Yeah, I thought I heard like he's kind of in the semifinal group, and then they'll pick finalists. And because I think I saw him on NFL.com, and I remember back in Ohio State, and he was just I thought he was really good running back, but just kind of watching some of his highlights, and looking at some of his stats, he really was an all time great.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and do you kind of remember? I mean, what made him that great, or were you kind of? I mean, you weren't really paying attention as much at that time.
Right. No, he was just a hard running back. He was going to run the ball downhill,
Mhm.
and he was going to lower his shoulder, and he was just going to make you pay if you try to tackle him. Him and Ray Lewis had like the most like all time rivalry because you know Ray Lewis the level that he played on, but he played on defense, and I
Mhm.
feel like that Eddie George played on the same level of intensity on the opposite side of the football. So that was really fun to watch whenever I did watch him.
Yeah, absolutely. When you kind of talking about playoffs, and sometimes it does come down to close games, and I didn't realize this until I looked at Titans Twitter, but Randy Bullock, the kicker, they call him Fat Randy, right?
Yeah, Fat Randy. Yeah.
Where did that come out?
I'm not really sure. He's just a big fella, and he does a really good job of kicking the ball, kicking field goals, and I'm not really for sure where he was at before this year, but it's been really nice to have a consistent kicker.
Mhm.
2019 we had Ryan Suckup, and
Mhm.
he's having success down in Tampa Bay right now. I'm happy for him, but I wish he had that same success over with us. I know that he was injured as well, so I think he was dealing with some injuries. And then we had not Gronkowski, but
Oh, yeah.
Goskowski.
Yep.
And then at the beginning of the year, Goskowski was just missing field goal left and right, and then at the end of the year, he started making them. But this year, Randy Bullock has just been, getting the job done and making his field goals, making the extra points. Except this last game, I think he missed a couple field goals, and it's, I guess he can't make them all, but it's been nice actually having a more consistent kicker.
Yeah, I mean that's as a Bears fan, I know that you have to have, especially when it comes to playoffs, you have to have that kind of, position shorn up because I mean, it could come down to a really tight game where you need 3 points here, or you need something here or there, or you need a long field goal. I mean, it's an important part of the game.
Absolutely, special teams is a big contributor to the game.
When you kind of look at your podcast, what are some of the like key things that you issues that you guys are talking about now kind of going into the rest of the season? Are you talking about kind of the pass rush? What are some things that are really kind of that you're kicking around in your podcast?
Um, well, the Sons of Bud, the last podcast we did was earlier this year. It was at the beginning of this year. It's crazy that it's been almost a whole year since we did the last podcast. But
Oh
what
yeah.
we would do is we would do a podcast each week leading up to the game. Kind of talk about the key ingredients to winning the game, key contributors to the team, that sort of thing. It was kind of a different topic each week, and it was fun. But this past year has been crazy, and I've been, moving, or I did move. I moved in with
Hmm.
my fiance, and so there's been a whole lot of time that where, and also Chris, who was a co-host, he's on the West Coast,
Oh
and
yeah.
so a big time difference as well. So that
Yep.
that it makes it really hard to really get a podcast going. Um, but I know we've tried here and there, but like I say, hopefully we can get the ball rolling on that soon. Um,
Yeah, and when you look at the season, I mean, I do an NFC North podcast, and one of my co-hosts actually is a Vikings fan, and he does live on the West Coast as well, so we kind of deal with that as well. But you know, with when the team's having issues, it sometimes it's tougher to get excited about doing a podcast, and when there's injuries here and there, that's football, but when it's constant, I mean that's tough as a fan base. That's tough as as someone who wants to analyze the good things as well.
yeah, and I feel like that the Titans play their best whenever all the media and everybody downs them. It's
Yeah.
just always whenever the Titans like, oh yeah, Titans got this. They're on the Titan side, and then they start
Mhm.
playing down to the competition. And I think that's exactly what happened against the Texans. But like I said, they have a whole lot of injuries, so
Mhm.
um, I can't put a finger on it. But it's just a whole lot of issues going on, especially with the injuries that have definitely killed a lot of momentum for the team.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, there's so much momentum that started out, but you still kind of in position, and so the Titans have it in front of them. It'll be interesting to see, what happens the rest of the season. Hopefully, they get some experience, and I like the Titans. I was an Oilers. I like the Oilers, and I like all these different teams, and I've actually been to right by the stadium, been to the area, so love Nashville. So and I'm actually I was a Rams fan for that Super Bowl because of Kurt Warner. I'm from Iowa, but I mean that was just an amazing Super Bowl. So um yeah, so I like Mike Vrabel. I like what he's doing, and I mean you just kind of have to hopefully hope for some positives this year, and then really next year I mean, is Julio going to come back next year? Or is he just on a one year deal?
I think he's just on a 1 year deal, and
Yeah.
I'm not for sure if he'll come back or not. I think they reconstructed his contract, and unless he's able to reconstruct his contract even more, I don't know, because definitely with that caliber of wide receiver that he is,
Mhm.
I just don't know how much of a pay cut he's going to be wanting to take. Now also, we got I think not next year, but the year after, AJ Brown's going to be coming up to the end of his rookie contract.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of contracts that are needed to be extended, especially Harold Landry. This is Harold Landry's last year, so hoping that they can get him extended and get a contract worked out for him, because it would definitely hurt to lose him.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely appreciate you, sitting down with me, and so everyone can find you where again?
Real Tennessteve on Twitter.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, so I got that scrolling down. You're definitely going to have to touch base again, in the playoffs, and maybe even into next year.
Yeah, definitely, and maybe we can get my buddy Chris in here too, where he can, because he's been a diehard fan since the Tennessee Oilers days, and so
Yeah.
it would be fun to get him in here and to pick his brain a little bit too.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thanks again. Once again, this has been NFL Outdated Cover 2 series on the Tennessee Titans. Thanks again, Steve.
Thank you for having me.